Hello, welcome to Disenthrall. Today is part 2 of the interview of Ryan. We're gonna pick up where we left off with the turning point.
Yes.
All right. So where were we? Can you give us a quick overview
of where we were before?
Yeah, just like we're in college. Where are we?
Oh yeah. So we left off. I was like, it was late college. We left off with me talking about the first election that I voted in, the midterm election. Now we're kind of like my last semester of college, so I'm almost out of college right now.
All right.
So what I think kept me from being like a lifetime supporter of the Republican platform was like the critical thinking and logical reasoning. And I know that's stupid to say, but like
little ad hominem.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Like every day in like the student senate meetings and stuff like that, I saw kids like giving very like emotion filled arguments to state their cases, and I started seeing like the cracks and flaws in their arguments because of that. And one of the things that I learned as like being an economics major is that we learn critical thinking skills. We learn to like take a certain problem and realize that there's multiple solutions to the problem. So our critical thinking skills become very sharp. So what I learned from class, I applied to other aspects of my life, and that also included like what was my like political platform, what did I believe in.
Do you have an example of maybe like an issue where you went through this process of kind of thinking about it more like in depth?
Mm-hmm. I guess an example.
Nothing. You got nothing.
Well, I mean, like, because I've already changed my mind on so many issues, you know. So,
do you remember having any arguments with like your roommate that you were talking about, where he actually changed your mind on something or made you think?
I mean, like the whole like drug war thing was an easy thing that I was able to change my mind on, simply because. The whole argument of like, you know, they're not hurting anybody else, so why would we like act upon them with such violence and stuff like that whenever they're not really hurting anybody else, or just doing something that could potentially hurt themselves? But you know, who are we to say, oh, you need to stop that because you might hurt yourself?
Like that case that just hit the news. There was the kid in school in the middle of some big gathering in, I guess, the gym or something like that. Mm-hmm. The kid, they said something about marijuana, and the kid yelled like something.
My mom does it or something like that, so it's fine.
It doesn't hurt my mom or something like that. And so then the school called the police, and the police showed up at her house and like wouldn't let her go in her house. And she told them that, you know, they'd have to come back with a warrant. And they said, well, we're just going to keep you out of her house until we get a warrant. And so they all sat on the front lawn, and then they took her to jail, and she lost custody of the kid.
Right.
Over like an ounce or something. Not an ounce. I don't know what the measurements are. But some small amount of vegetation. She lost custody of her child. It was
only like a little bit of oil, they said.
Oh yeah, it was oil. It was, I don't know what this stuff's called.
It's just like a little like oil, that you put inside like a vaporizer or whatever.
Right. So the kid lost his mom. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Over something that would like. That they don't know, like if it would have hurt anybody else, like, you know. Okay, all right. So.
Anyway, so that's like an easy thing. I mean, my feelings for that developed over time. Like over there, it was a pretty like took like a really fundamental approach of like discrediting it. But then like I learned about how, you know, private prisons are using the drug war to increase inmate populations and stuff like that. And all the like really minute details about the drug war that are like completely gross. So,
okay. I would like to hear more about that in the future.
Sure.
Okay. I've never really explored that argument before.
So. Oh, really?
Yeah, no.
Oh, yeah. It's great. And like prison guard unions are a big thing too.
Yeah.
So, you know, the prison guards have an entire union that try and keep the drug war in effect so that
I didn't know that either.
So that they have a job.
Okay. So we should talk about that sometime.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
All right. So please continue. Sorry. So my job is to just disrupt your story as much as possible.
No, so I mean, that's like an easy example because, like, of course, you know, like one of Ron politics really like isolationist philosophy to the foreign affairs. So it's the whole like, we're not doing any good going into other countries and blowing up like other buildings and stuff like that. So like all this like aggression and violence against other people just because we think that they're doing something wrong, it doesn't really help anybody in the long haul, you know?
Okay.
So anyways, yeah, so I was like, my critical thinking and like logical reasoning and no longer taking an emotional like stance on arguments, that kind of helped me transition from like the Republic. It helped me to like discredit the Republican platform totally.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing left of it that was any good.
Like eventually it was like, you know, I had to like apply it to like every one of their arguments.
Okay.
So I was really starting to realize that like what my parents and my peers and many others, they were just like, they were completely wrong because all of them were using emotional arguments to present stuff, their ideas.
A lot of it the comparison that makes the most sense to me is that it's a lot like football teams. Like if you're born in an area where people all enjoy the Cowboys, then you're going to root for the Cowboys. And when another fan comes up and starts talking about why their team is better, it's like a religious discussion where you know neither side's really right. It's just because of where you were born. That's kind of silly, I think.
Yeah, I grew up liking the Cowboys, and I don't like the Cowboys anymore. So, guess I didn't follow that one either.
All right. Such a rebel.
Yeah, right.
So what happened next?
I went into like full research mode.
Okay.
So I started like finding connections between politicians and corporations and stuff like that. And I learned the principle that if someone is not hurting anyone else by doing something, then leave them alone. And all in all, I found out that like the total devastation of the two-party system and what their real incentives were of like trying to become like a lifetime politician and stuff like that, you know.
So what are the incentives that you're talking about? What do you mean?
Control, money.
Oh, okay. Just money, power, influence type of thing?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just asking.
Oh.
I want to know. You said incentives. I want to know what you meant.
Right. So of course, then I found Ron Paul. I mean, he's like head honcho of the like libertarian movement, you know, like everybody knows who he is. And I found libertarianism, of course, which was funny because like I found out like, the whole time
the head of the libertarian movement isn't a libertarian, right? That's strange.
Yeah. Right. So it's funny because my grandpa was like right the entire time. Then I didn't even realize it. Like I was like, you know, whenever I was younger, I was like, what the hell is a libertarian? Why is he saying he's libertarian? And then I eventually become a libertarian. So
was there a moment where you said, okay, I think I'm on that bandwagon now? And what did your dad think? How did that go?
Oh, I'll tell you here in a second.
Okay. Sorry, I jump ahead.
So I was happy because like I questioned what people accepted. And it felt good. It felt good to like change my stance because I've thought about it.
Okay.
So now we're in this kind of point where I'm like living as a libertarian. So I sort of had like this epiphany. This epiphany that led me to be a libertarian happened right smack dab in the 2012 elections.
Okay.
So like right in the middle of election season, I changed my whole philosophy. From being a Republican to a libertarian.
Presidential election?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The 2012 presidential election. Okay, Obama's running for second term.
Right.
All that good stuff.
Oops.
Like I was like full Republican, Mitt Romney all the way. I bought signs and stickers and stuff like that.
Okay.
And I gave my dad all my signs and my stickers and stuff like that.
Oh, when you changed Ron Paul.
Right. I just gave it all to him.
You just like showed up at his house and said, here's all my swag.
Yeah. You can take it, do whatever we want with it. I don't want it anymore. I'm not going to put a sign out in front of my house or a sticker on my car.
What did he say?
I just told him it was like extras. Like I didn't need them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That I was being nice and handing in my extra stuff, you know?
Right.
So as the election grew near, I told my dad that I would not be voting for Mitt Romney and rather I would be voting for the Libertarian candidate, which was Gary Johnson. And of course, he just like was very angry when I told him that. He said like, cause I had like left the good side. I was no longer part of the team. Like you were saying before, I was no longer a part of we. Cause you know, whenever you're part of the team, you say we as an entire party. even though it didn't really matter because Texas is as a safe state for Republicans, so Mitt Romney would have won no matter what.
Right.
So voting for a Libertarian candidate in Texas is
a waste of time.
It's not like it's just there's no use in getting all angry because someone didn't vote Republican because Republican's gonna win in Texas. Like it's
right. Okay.
It's a no-brainer. So yeah, he was super angry because I left the team. So in the 2012 elections,
did he try and have like a discussion with you? Did he talk about the points at all, or was
he just was telling me that it was a bad idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you would react stronger to somebody that you thought was on your side and switched because you know that they already, or you thought that they already understood all your arguments, and that's why they were on your side. So for them to switch means they thought about your arguments, understood those arguments, and then said, no, those are wrong. So maybe that's why. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, so like I said, because as I was going through college, I learned how to approach things differently, and so. I didn't take everything at face value right away. I eventually started questioning stuff, and so I questioned everything that I learned that had to deal with the Republican Party.
Okay.
So in 2012 elections, I voted strictly Libertarian, like a total switch from that midterm election where I voted strictly Republican.
Okay.
So
this time you walked in and instead of a gun, you grabbed a porcupine and you slammed it down on the L.
No, I didn't check the box at top. I went through every single one, and I was just Libertarian all the way.
All right.
Seemed right.
Here we go. Here's a question. So not all boxes have a Libertarian candidate. Who did you check then?
I probably didn't vote at all for
Okay.
them.
Okay. Just wanted to see.
Yeah. So little did I know that wouldn't even make a difference, voting straight Libertarian. I mean, the only difference that it would have made is that I would have increased the percentage of votes that they got, so they might have gotten more funding for the next election.
Okay. So
you're welcome, I guess. But I mean, it really didn't make much of a difference because I mean, the Libertarians, of course, had no shot of winning that election. So I continued to label myself as a Libertarian, and I started working. My first big boy job in an accounting firm after that. So this is once I started this new job, I started to continue to question my beliefs. I didn't, I was a Libertarian, but I wasn't done. I wasn't set in stone. I was still questioning because there's puzzle pieces started coming together, but there was missing pieces, and I still didn't know how to answer the questions that were arising.
Like what?
I'll tell you here in a second.
Stop asking questions.
No, so in this job, I started to meet a lot of people in what would be called the counterculture. Some people that might be labeled as hippies or hipsters or something like that.
Okay.
And so, while working one day, one of my colleagues sent me a link to a video. And it was actually an excerpt from Joe Rogan's podcast.
Rogan. Okay.
Right. So it was just all these weird images with him talking over it, doing a voiceover basically. And I was like, wow, this is extremely radical stuff, stuff that I haven't heard anybody say before in my life.
Well, you got to give examples.
It was a lot of stuff about religion and the drug war and all that kind of stuff. Okay. I don't know.
I know that he's very kind of pro drugs.
Right. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
He's not just decriminalize drugs. He's he thinks people should take drugs.
Right.
to expand their mind or something, right?
Right, yeah. Right. Yeah, he's a big fan of people that use psychedelics too.
Psychedelics, yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. So it was through Joe Rogan that I finally put the rest of my questions about religion because of that, and also started questioning other things like gay marriage and the drug war. So through him, I learned really the minute details of the drug war and the devastation it was having on large populations of people in the United States. And I started to find the cracks in libertarian philosophy, mainly the problem with how much government is enough government is like a pretty common question for libertarians. It's like, well, what would you like the government to do? You say you want unlimited government, then how much government is enough? And like the fact that in order to run a libertarian government, we would still need to tax people to run like a national defense and stuff like that. So it didn't.
Now you're getting into the hard questions,
right? Yeah. Like it didn't solve that. Like we would still need to steal money from people to run a libertarian government.
Yeah. So most libertarians claim, talk about this non-aggression principle as a guiding principle in their political positions, but they don't carry it all the way. So yeah. Right.
You can't. That's hypocritical because like you can't have you can't believe in the non-aggression principle and want to tax people at the same time.
And so you have like a capital L libertarian is kind of a contradiction, right? Non-aggression principle, but we're going to have to tax you to make that happen.
Right. Right. So that's whenever I started questioning that. This kind of brings us to like present day time whenever I met back up with you and you kind of
my crazy ideas.
Yeah. Fit the final pieces of the puzzle and saying that, well, why wouldn't we just want to have no government at all? Like, what's so great about the government that we would need it in our daily lives? What do they help with?
I was now just to we can talk about me in the future, but I'm still in this transition. So it's not like I already had these ideas figured out when you kind of started hanging out with me again. It's like I'm having a conversation with you as I figure this stuff out. So I'm trying to universalize my principles, and so the non-aggression principle can't just stop at the point where you need to tax people,
right?
So
but we stopped like worrying about like party politics, and we started really hitting like the foundation of philosophical reasoning, or just like our philosophical ideas. So we started thinking about things on a moral aspect instead of like what does a party need or what is. It's like we stopped worrying about stuff that on the branches and we hit the root of the problem.
Less practicality, like will this work, and more is it right for it to work this way? I think maybe is that
It's like once you realize that you learn the foundation of philosophy and you can apply it to any situation, things get a lot easier.
Yep.
Yeah.
And scarier.
Yeah. You start realizing that a lot of things are really scary and that are going on in your daily life that you don't even realize before.
And perfectly accepted by the general populace.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even realized. Like they don't even realize it. They're just like, whatever.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah. So we start like watching videos and viewing articles, and you start seeing a lot of patterns and really messed up things that are happening. So that was really powerful, and that's why I changed more into the anarchy side. Oh my God.
All right. Yeah. All right. Cool. Is that kind of where you're at today?
Yeah.
And do you feel like are there still ideas kind of out there floating around that you're not sure on, or are you kind of solidified?
No, there's definitely. I don't think it'll ever end.
Right.
There's still ideas that I'm still like flip flopping on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So. Cool. Still thinking about stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. I think that was informative. I learned stuff. So I appreciate you taking the time to put that together for us.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
It was good.
Is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Awesome. So our next video that's coming soon, I've been working on it for weeks, is a response to my friends that I got into a Facebook argument. Imagine that. Again. I'm just constantly burning bridges on Facebook. That's what it's for these days. I was like, I spent 7 years building up a giant friends list on Facebook, and now I'm just slowly burning it down. But so that I got into a Facebook about an argument about spanking. So there's some very clear scientific data out there, very clear, very settled. That's been out for about 30 years, and it continues to grow. And so I rather than just kind of join back into that fight on Facebook and just kind of post another wall of text for everybody to weed through and try and respond, I said, okay, I'm going to slow down. I'm going to spend some time. I'm going to do the research, and we're actually going to put together a presentation on it. And so I'm mostly done with my research. I've put a lot of time and effort into it, and that's what we're going to present next. So I appreciate you guys watching, and let us know what you thought about or what you think in the comments. If you have any questions about his life, post them. We'll see what we can do. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.